Kyle checked his toolkit for the third time that morning. He always wanted to be sure everything was in order. Being a technician aboard the Starship Horizon was not a glamorous job, but he liked it. It allowed him quiet time, away from the busy chatter of the other crew members. Today was different. Today, the Horizon was hosting very important guests from the planet Zeloria. Kyle had never seen aliens up close before, and he felt nervous. He took a deep breath and headed toward the main hall, gripping his toolkit tightly. When Kyle arrived, he saw a crowd gathered near the entry gate. Standing at the center was Princess Alira. She was tall and slender, with a soft blue glow coming from her skin. Her silver hair flowed down her back, and her eyes were bright and curious, scanning everything around her. Kyle couldn't help but stare. She was unlike anyone he had ever seen. Dock Captain Lara approached Kyle with a smile. "Kyle, good, you're here. The princess's quarters need a systems check. Make sure everything is perfect." Kyle nodded quickly. "Yes, Captain." Captain Lara gently guided Kyle forward, presenting him to Princess Alira. "Your Highness, this is Kyle. He will ensure your quarters are comfortable and all systems are working perfectly." Princess Alira turned to Kyle, her bright eyes meeting his for the first time. "Thank you, Kyle," she said softly. Her voice had a musical quality that made Kyle's heartbeat quicken. "You're welcome, Princess," Kyle replied, feeling his face turn slightly red. He quickly looked away, focusing on his toolkit again. "Please, call me Alira," she said kindly, stepping closer. "Titles are not important to me when meeting new friends." Kyle felt warmth spread through him. "All right, Alira," he replied, surprised at his own bravery. "I'll check your quarters now." Together, they walked down the corridor toward her room. Kyle noticed how gracefully Alira moved, each step seeming effortless. He found himself more comfortable than he had expected. When they reached her quarters, Kyle began checking the controls and screens, making sure the lighting, temperature, and communication systems were all functioning. Alira watched him curiously. "Is your world very different from mine?" she asked softly, her head tilted slightly. Kyle paused, looking up from his work. "Yes, very different. Earth is mostly water and green lands, with cities and towns full of people. Space travel is still new to us compared to your people." Alira smiled. "Your world sounds beautiful. I hope to visit someday." Kyle smiled shyly back at her. "I think you would like it." She stepped closer, peering over his shoulder at the control panel. Kyle felt her closeness keenly, and his pulse quickened again. He focused hard on the screen, trying to remain calm. "You are very careful in your work," Alira observed, sounding impressed. "Do all humans work this carefully?" Kyle shrugged gently. "I guess some do, others don't. I just like making sure things are right." "That's a good quality," Alira replied. "Sincerely, we value care and attention on Zeloria." Kyle felt pride swell within him. Being praised by an alien princess was not something he had ever expected. "Thank you," he replied quietly, continuing his checks. After a few moments, Alira spoke again, softly and a little hesitantly. "Kyle, what do humans think about friendship with other species?" Kyle thought carefully before responding. "Most humans are curious and want to learn about others. Friendship, even love, I think, is something we all hope to find, no matter who it is with." Alira smiled warmly, seeming relieved. "I'm glad to hear that. Our peoples can learn much from each other." Finishing his check, Kyle turned fully toward her, confident now that everything was working perfectly. "Your quarters are all set, Alira. If you need anything else, let me know." She looked directly into his eyes, her expression softening even further. "Thank you, Kyle. You've made me feel very welcome." Kyle felt himself blush again, but managed a warm smile. "I'm glad, Alira." As he left her quarters and walked slowly back down the corridor, Kyle's mind raced. Meeting Alira had left him excited, nervous, and filled with questions. He knew his life aboard the Horizon had suddenly become much more interesting. Kyle's heart beat faster than usual as he started his duties the next day. The quiet halls of the Starship Horizon seemed busier now, filled with excitement over the visitors from Zeloria. Kyle kept finding his mind wandering back to Princess Alira. He had enjoyed their short meeting and found himself looking forward to seeing her again. As he worked on repairing a communication unit in the observation lounge, he heard a soft voice behind him. "Good morning, Kyle." He turned quickly, feeling his face grow warm when he saw Alira standing there, smiling gently. She was dressed in shimmering robes that shifted colors as she moved. "Good morning, Alira," Kyle replied shyly. "Is everything okay with your quarters?" "Everything is perfect," Alira assured him warmly, stepping closer. "But I was hoping you might show me around your ship. It's fascinating, and I want to learn more." Kyle hesitated for a moment, unsure if he was the right person to guide her. But Alira's expectant smile made it impossible to refuse. "I'd be happy to," he finally answered, setting down his tools. They walked slowly down the corridor. Kyle pointed out various sections of the ship, explaining their purposes. Alira listened intently, asking questions that showed her genuine interest. "Do you spend a lot of time alone, Kyle?" Alira asked suddenly, breaking a short silence between them. Kyle looked down, slightly embarrassed. "I suppose I do. I'm comfortable being alone, focusing on my work." Alira tilted her head thoughtfully. "On Zeloria, we believe connections make us stronger. Friendship, companionship, even love, these are the foundations of our lives." Kyle felt his heart flutter at her words. "That sounds very nice," he admitted softly. "Humans value those things too, but sometimes we find them complicated." Alira smiled knowingly. Complicated can also mean rewarding. Kyle chuckled softly, appreciating her perspective. As they reached the ship's large viewing window, they paused to look out at the stars together. The vastness of space stretched endlessly. Before them, calm and peaceful. "It's beautiful," Alira whispered, her voice filled with awe. Kyle glanced at her, watching the stars reflect in her gentle eyes. "Yes, very beautiful," he agreed softly. Though he was no longer looking at space, Alira noticed his gaze and turned toward him, her expression gentle and curious. "Kyle, tell me about human romance. Is it difficult for your people to express feelings?" Kyle felt his pulse quicken, not expecting such a direct question. "It can be," he answered honestly. "Sometimes humans worry too much about rejection or misunderstanding." "Have you ever been in love?" Alira asked gently. Kyle paused, feeling suddenly vulnerable. "Not yet," he admitted. "I guess I haven't found the right person." Alira stepped closer, her eyes warm and understanding. "Maybe you just haven't known where to look." Kyle's breath caught in his throat. He felt drawn to her warmth and openness, his usual shyness fading away. "Maybe," he agreed quietly. They stood together in comfortable silence, enjoying the view and each other's company. Eventually, Kyle found his voice again. "Why are you so interested in humans, Alira?" Alira's face softened further. "Because your people have something special. You live with passion, curiosity, and kindness. And you, Kyle, you have an honesty and gentleness that makes me feel safe." Kyle was touched deeply by her words. "I'm glad you feel that way," he said sincerely. "Meeting you has been special for me too." She smiled brightly, her whole face lighting up. "I am very glad to hear that." The intercom suddenly buzzed, startling them both slightly. Captain Laura's voice came through clearly. "Kyle, please report." "To the engineering bay immediately." Kyle sighed softly. "Duty calls." Alira nodded understandingly, her eyes sparkling. "I hope to see you soon, Kyle." He smiled warmly. "Me too, Alira." As Kyle walked toward engineering, his mind raced with thoughts of their conversation. Alira was unlike anyone he had ever met, human or alien. She was kind, curious, and surprisingly easy to talk to. For the first time, Kyle found himself genuinely eager to spend more time with someone, stepping outside his comfort zone. Deep down, Kyle knew that this connection with Alira had already changed something in him, something he could not quite name yet. He smiled softly to himself, feeling more hopeful and excited about the future than he ever had before. After their conversation at the observation lounge, Kyle found himself thinking about Alira more often. It made his daily routine feel lighter and happier. Even his crewmates noticed he was more cheerful, and they teased him gently. Kyle didn't mind because deep down he knew it was true. One afternoon, while checking the ship's environmental systems, Kyle received a message on his personal communicator. It was Alira asking him if he could help her understand some human customs. Kyle smiled to himself and quickly replied, agreeing to meet her in the library later that day. When he reached the library, he found Alira already there, sitting quietly at a table. She was focused intently on a small device in her hand. When she saw Kyle approach, her eyes lit up. "Hello, Kyle," she greeted him warmly. "Thank you for coming." "Happy to help," Kyle responded, taking a seat beside her. "What are you curious about?" Alira hesitated slightly, looking shy for the first time. "I want to learn more about human relationships," she admitted softly. "How do you know when someone likes you?" Kyle blushed lightly but smiled at her honesty. "Well, it can vary. Usually, they spend more time with you, show interest in your life, and try to make you happy." Alira tilted her head thoughtfully. "Then, you must like me," she said straightforwardly, smiling gently. Kyle laughed quietly, feeling a rush of warmth. "Yes, I guess I do," he admitted, surprised at how easy it was to say it out loud. Alira looked delighted by his admission. "And I like you very much, Kyle. Your kindness and patience are wonderful." Kyle felt happiness swell within him. "Thank you, Alira. That means a lot. But there is more I don't understand," she continued earnestly. "Humans often hide their feelings, even when they like someone very much. Why is that?" Kyle thought carefully. "We fear rejection, or sometimes we worry about what others might think. It can make things difficult." "I see," Alira nodded slowly. "On Zeloria, we speak our feelings openly. It helps us avoid misunderstanding." "That seems better," Kyle admitted. "Maybe humans could learn from your people." "Maybe," Alira smiled gently. She paused, then leaned a little closer. "Kyle, if humans worry so much about rejection, how can they ever start a relationship?" Kyle smiled at her innocent curiosity. "Sometimes we just have to be brave, take a chance, and hope for the best." Alira considered this carefully. "Are you brave, Kyle?" Kyle felt his heartbeat quicken. Her question was simple, but the meaning felt deep. "I'm trying to be," he replied honestly. She reached out gently and touched his hand, surprising him. Her fingers were soft, cool, and comforting. "Then I hope you'll be brave with me," she whispered. Kyle's heart pounded as he met her earnest gaze. "I want to be," he said softly, his voice full of honesty. They sat quietly for a moment, hands gently touching, feeling a bond growing stronger between them. Kyle had never imagined he could feel so deeply connected to someone from another world. "What happens next?" Alira finally asked, her eyes bright with excitement and curiosity. Kyle smiled warmly. "Usually we spend more time together, learning about each other, building trust." Alira squeezed his hand softly, delighted. "I would like that very much." "Me too," Kyle replied sincerely. They spent the next hour sharing stories from their worlds, laughing over silly traditions, and speaking openly about dreams and hopes. Kyle learned that Alira loved painting and music, and Alira learned about Kyle's childhood on Earth, his hobbies, and his love for exploring new technologies. As their conversation ended, Alira looked at Kyle with a gentle seriousness. "Kyle, there is something important I must tell you." "Of course," Kyle responded attentively. "As a princess, there are expectations about who I should be with. Many on my planet will not understand my feelings for a human, especially one who is not royalty," she explained softly. "But I'm certain of what I feel for you." Kyle felt a mix of worry and happiness. "I understand, Alira. It might not be easy, but I think we can handle it together. Alira smiled, relieved and grateful. Thank you, Kyle. That makes me feel stronger. They stood up, walking slowly to the library's entrance. Before leaving, Alira turned to him, her expression hopeful. Will I see you tomorrow? Absolutely, Kyle answered warmly, feeling brave and confident. As Kyle walked back to his quarters, his heart was lighter than ever. Despite the challenges ahead, he felt ready and excited. Meeting Alira had opened his eyes to new possibilities, and for the first time, he understood clearly what bravery felt like. Over the next few days, Kyle and Alira grew even closer. They spent time together whenever possible, walking through the ship's gardens, sharing meals in the dining hall, or simply talking in quiet corners of the starship. Each moment seemed special, making Kyle happier than he had ever felt before. One morning, Kyle received an urgent message from Captain Laura. He quickly went to the command center, wondering what was happening. Captain Laura looked serious when he arrived. Kyle, we have an issue. The diplomatic group from Zeloria wants Princess Alira to return immediately. There's been some trouble back home, and they are worried for her safety, Captain Laura explained carefully. Kyle felt his heart sink. Do you think she's in danger? He asked worriedly. It's unclear, Captain Laura replied honestly. But Alira asked to speak with you before leaving. She seems very upset. Kyle hurried toward Alira's quarters, his mind filled with anxious thoughts. When he arrived, Alira stood near the window, staring out at the stars. She turned quickly when she heard him enter. Kyle, she said softly, her eyes filled with sadness. I must leave today. He moved closer, feeling his chest tighten with emotion. I heard. Is everything all right? Alira shook her head gently. There is political trouble at home. My family is worried, but I don't want to leave. Kyle, not yet. Kyle reached out and gently took her hand. I wish you could stay longer too, he said quietly. But your safety is important. I know, Alira admitted sadly. I wanted more time to learn about you, your world. More time for us. Kyle squeezed her hand reassuringly. Maybe. I can visit your planet someday? Alira brightened a little, nodding quickly. Yes, Kyle. Please promise me you'll come. I need you to see my home and understand my people better. It will make everything clearer for us. Kyle nodded firmly, smiling gently. I promise, Alira. I'll find a way. Alira sighed softly, her expression calming a bit. There's something else, Kyle. Something important I must ask you. When you come to Zeloria, you will face judgment from my people. They will question our bond. They might even challenge your right to be with me. Kyle stood a little straighter, feeling determined. I'm not afraid of their judgment, Alira. What we have is real. I'll face whatever I need to. Her eyes sparkled with admiration and gratitude. You truly are brave, Kyle. He smiled gently. Only because you've given me something worth fighting for. Alira stepped closer, leaning softly against him. Kyle wrapped his arms around her, holding her gently yet securely. It felt natural and comforting, filling him with peace despite the uncertainty ahead. We'll find a way, Alira, Kyle whispered reassuringly. I believe you, she replied, her voice soft but firm. I've never felt this certain about anyone. You have opened my heart in ways I never imagined. Kyle felt deeply moved by her words. You've done the same for me. You make me stronger, braver. Being with you feels right, no matter how complicated it is. They stood quietly together, savoring the moment, knowing it might be their last for a while. Soon, Captain Laura's voice came gently through the intercom. Princess Alira, your transport is ready. It's time to depart. Alira pulled back, slightly looking up into Kyle's eyes. Goodbye for now, Kyle. Please don't forget your promise. I won't, Kyle promised sincerely. Giving her hand one last squeeze, they walked slowly toward the hangar bay, hands gently linked. Until the final moment. As Alira boarded her shuttle, she glanced back at Kyle, smiling softly but sadly. He waved reassuringly, hiding his own sadness as best he could. The shuttle doors closed, and Kyle watched as it smoothly lifted off, carrying Alira away from him. He stood quietly for a long time, watching until the shuttle was just a tiny point of light in the darkness of space. Returning slowly to his quarters, Kyle reflected on everything Alira had shared with him. Her honesty and kindness had touched him deeply, giving him courage he never knew he possessed. He knew their path ahead would be filled with challenges, but he felt ready to face them. That night, Kyle stood quietly at the viewing window again, gazing out into the stars. He made a silent promise to himself and Alira, determined to see her again soon. Whatever it took, he would be brave enough to stand by her side. With that thought, he finally felt calm enough to rest, dreaming of a future that now seemed brighter and full of hope. After Alira's departure, Kyle found himself thinking of her constantly. Days turned into weeks, and the starship Horizon returned to its routine tasks of exploration and maintenance. But for Kyle, everything felt different. The ship seemed quieter and lonelier without Alira. One evening, Captain Laura called Kyle to her office. Kyle wondered why the captain wanted to speak with him, and his heart raced slightly as he walked down the corridor. "Please sit down, Kyle," Captain Laura said kindly when he arrived. "How have you been feeling since Alira left?" Kyle sighed, admitting honestly, "Not great, Captain. I miss her more than I expected." Captain Laura nodded sympathetically. "Well, I have good news for you. We've received permission for a diplomatic visit to Zeloria. The Zelorians requested you personally." Alira made sure of that. Kyle felt a rush of excitement and relief. "Really? That's wonderful news." "Yes," Captain Laura smiled warmly. "But remember, it's not just a personal visit. You will represent humanity, so there's much responsibility." Kyle understood completely. "I won't let you down, Captain." "I know you won't," Captain Laura said confidently. "You leave tomorrow." Kyle spent the rest of the evening preparing carefully. He felt nervous but excited. His heart pounded at the thought of seeing Alira again. This time on her world. The next morning, Kyle boarded a small shuttle bound for Zeloria. The journey passed quickly as he rehearsed what he would say when he met Alira again. Finally, the shuttle landed softly on Zeloria's surface. Kyle took a deep breath and stepped out. Zeloria was breathtakingly beautiful. Soft blue and purple plants covered gentle hills, and delicate silver buildings rose gracefully in the distance. Waiting near the landing area was a group of Zelorian officials. Standing in front was Alira, smiling brightly, her eyes shining with joy. "Kyle!" she greeted warmly, stepping forward. "Alira," Kyle responded, feeling happiness flood through him as he saw her again. They approached each other quickly, sharing a heartfelt, gentle hug. "I'm so glad you're here," Alira whispered softly. "Me too," Kyle replied, smiling deeply. "Come, let me introduce you to my family," Alira said gently, taking Kyle's hand and leading him to the waiting officials. Kyle met Alira's parents, King Rovan and Queen Eliana. They greeted him politely but seemed cautious. Kyle understood their hesitation. He was an outsider, and Alira was their beloved daughter. Still, he spoke clearly and respectfully, earning their polite approval. After the introductions, Alira showed Kyle around her beautiful home. She took him to gardens filled with glowing flowers and peaceful lakes reflecting the soft sky above. They walked slowly, talking about everything that had happened since they parted. "How are things here, Alira?" Kyle asked carefully. "Better," Alira said gently, "but there are still tensions. Some do not approve of humans yet, especially not humans who care for a princess." Kyle nodded, understanding the difficulty. "What can I do to help them see me differently?" Alira paused thoughtfully. "Tomorrow there is a special ceremony, a traditional event where you must show your courage and intelligence. My people respect bravery and wisdom deeply." "I'll do whatever it takes," Kyle promised confidently. That evening, Kyle joined the grand dinner with Alira's family and their court. Some looked at him with curiosity, others with doubt. Kyle remained polite and calm, answering questions about Earth honestly and respectfully. Alira smiled warmly, proud of how he handled himself. After dinner, Alira and Kyle walked alone under the stars, enjoying the peaceful night. "Are you ready for tomorrow?" Alira asked gently, squeezing Kyle's hand reassuringly. Kyle smiled warmly. "With you beside me, I feel ready for anything." Alira looked deeply into his eyes. "I believe in you, Kyle. I know your courage and kindness will win them over." Kyle felt deeply encouraged by her words. "Thank you, Alira. That means so much to me." "You mean so much to me," she said softly, her eyes full of warmth and love. They stood quietly, sharing a moment of deep connection, feeling their bond growing stronger. Kyle knew tomorrow would be important, but tonight, just being with Alira felt perfect. When they finally said goodnight, Kyle returned to his guest quarters filled with determination. Tomorrow would be a challenge, but it was a challenge worth facing. For Alira, for himself, and for their future together, Kyle felt ready and hopeful. He lay down to rest, dreaming peacefully of the days ahead, confident in his feelings and strength. The morning of the ceremony arrived quickly. Kyle awoke early, feeling a mix of nervousness and excitement. He dressed carefully, choosing simple clothes that felt right for the occasion. Alira had told him the ceremony would be important to her people, and he was determined to do his best. When Kyle stepped outside, Alira was already waiting for him. She smiled warmly, her presence instantly calming his nerves. "Are you ready, Kyle?" she asked softly. "As ready as I'll ever be," Kyle answered with a small smile. Together, they walked to the ceremony site. It was a large open area filled with many Zilorians. They stood quietly, their eyes curious and watchful as Kyle approached. At the front stood Alira's parents, King Rovan and Queen Eliana, both watching him carefully. King Rovan stepped forward. His voice was firm but fair. "Kyle, human of Earth, today you will show us your courage and wisdom. Our tradition calls for a simple yet important task. Are you prepared?" "Yes, Your Majesty," Kyle replied respectfully. King Rovan nodded and explained. "You must cross the Bridge of Truth. The bridge tests your courage and sincerity. If your heart is true and brave, you will reach the other side safely." Kyle looked at the bridge. It was narrow and seemed fragile, suspended over a deep, rocky canyon. Beneath, mist swirled mysteriously. He felt a pang of fear, but quickly pushed it away. He looked at Alira, who smiled gently and nodded, silently encouraging him. Taking a deep breath, Kyle stepped onto the bridge. It swayed slightly under his weight, but he steadied himself. Each step felt like a test, the narrow path forcing him to focus carefully. The Zilorians watched silently, holding their breath as Kyle slowly moved forward. As Kyle reached the midpoint of the bridge, the mist below rose, enveloping him. He felt a strange sense of unease, and his heartbeat quickened. Whispered doubts filled his ears, questioning his feelings, his bravery, his right to stand beside Alira. For a moment, Kyle hesitated, but then he remembered Alira's gentle words and their shared moments of joy and trust. His doubts faded, replaced by certainty. He was sincere in his feelings, and he believed deeply in their connection. "I am brave enough," he whispered to himself, stepping forward again with renewed strength. Mist cleared slowly, revealing the solid ground ahead. Kyle moved confidently now, finally stepping onto the safe side of the bridge. Cheers erupted from the Zilorians gathered around, showing respect for his courage. King Rovan approached Kyle, his expression softer than before. "You have shown great courage, human Kyle, but wisdom is equally important. Answer one question truthfully." Kyle nodded respectfully. "I understand." The king looked directly into Kyle's eyes. "What do you truly seek in your heart by coming here?" Kyle paused briefly, choosing his words carefully. He answered honestly, "I seek to understand and build trust with your people, Your Majesty. Most of all, I seek the happiness and love I feel with Princess Alira. A hush fell over the crowd. Alira stepped forward, standing beside Kyle proudly. King Rovan watched them both carefully before finally smiling warmly. You have answered wisely, King Rovan said approvingly. Love and understanding are noble goals. I grant you my blessing. Queen Eliana stepped forward, her expression gentle and welcoming. You have shown us your sincerity, Kyle. We welcome you to Zeloria as a true friend and ally. Kyle felt relief and happiness flood through him. Thank you, he replied sincerely, bowing respectfully to the king and queen. Alira took Kyle's hand gently, her eyes sparkling with pride. I knew you could do it, Kyle, she whispered warmly. Only because you believed in me, Kyle replied softly. The gathered Zelorians began to celebrate, music and laughter filling the air. Kyle and Alira spent the evening surrounded by joyful company, receiving congratulations from many who had previously doubted Kyle. Late into the night, Kyle and Alira walked together under Zeloria's stars. The excitement of the day had passed, leaving them quiet and reflective. Are you happy, Kyle? Alira asked softly, looking up at him. Happier than I've ever been, Kyle replied honestly, squeezing her hand gently. Being here with you, facing everything together, has shown me how brave I can be. You've always had that bravery, Alira said softly. You just needed someone to help you see it. Kyle smiled warmly. I'm glad it was you. They stood quietly, looking at the stars, feeling a deep sense of peace. Kyle knew more challenges lay ahead, but now, beside Alira and accepted by her people, he felt ready to face whatever came their way. Several months had passed since Kyle successfully faced the challenges on Zeloria. His bond with Alira had grown even deeper, making their time together happier than ever before. Kyle now moved comfortably among Alira's people, who fully accepted him as a trusted friend. One bright morning, Kyle was helping Alira plant new flowers in the royal gardens. They laughed quietly together, enjoying the warmth of the sun and the gentle sounds of nature around them. Kyle, Alira began softly, brushing a lock of silver hair from her face, I have something important I want to ask you. Kyle paused, smiling warmly. Of course, Alira, you can ask me anything. She looked at him seriously, but with a gentle smile. Kyle, will you stay here on Zeloria with me permanently? Kyle felt joy surge within him, a warmth spreading through his chest. Yes, Alira. There's nowhere else I'd rather be than by your side. Alira's eyes sparkled with happiness as she leaned closer. I'm so glad to hear that, Kyle. My life is brighter with you in it, and mine is more meaningful with you, Kyle replied sincerely. Together, they continued planting flowers, planning their shared future with joy and excitement. The day seemed brighter, filled with possibilities and dreams. Later that day, King Rovan and Queen Eliana invited Kyle and Alira to a private audience. When they arrived, Kyle felt slightly nervous but reassured himself, knowing he had their trust. King Rovan spoke first, his tone calm and gentle. Kyle, you have proven yourself a brave and sincere person. Our daughter is happier with you than we have ever seen her. Therefore, Queen Eliana and I would like to give you our official blessing. Queen Eliana continued warmly, we would like you to marry our daughter, Kyle, and become an official part of our family. Kyle's heart raced with joy and surprise. Your Majesties, I am deeply honored, he replied respectfully. I promise to cherish and protect Alira with all my heart. Alira reached for Kyle's hand, squeezing it gently, her eyes shining with happiness. Thank you, Mother and Father. You made us very happy. The news of their engagement quickly spread throughout Zeloria, bringing joy and excitement to the people. Everyone prepared for the wedding, wanting to celebrate this unique and meaningful union. On the day of the wedding, Kyle stood waiting in a garden filled with blooming flowers. The sky was clear and bright, and everyone gathered were smiles of joy and anticipation when Alira appeared. Walking gracefully down the path toward Kyle, he felt his heart fill with pure happiness. She was radiant, her face glowing with love and joy. As they stood together, exchanging heartfelt vows, Kyle knew this was the most meaningful moment of his life. Promising his love to Alira in front of her people felt perfect and true. After their vows, King Rowan officially declared them married, and cheers erupted joyfully from all around. Kyle and Alira smiled at each other, feeling the warmth and love of their friends and family surrounding them. The celebration continued throughout the day, filled with laughter, music, and dancing. Kyle and Alira shared their joy openly, moving comfortably among everyone. Knowing they were fully supported and loved. As evening approached, Kyle and Alira found a quiet moment alone. They stood together beneath the soft glow of the stars, enjoying the peaceful night. "I never imagined finding such happiness," Kyle said softly, looking deeply into Alira's eyes. "You've made every challenge worthwhile." Alira smiled gently, her expression filled with warmth and love. "Kyle, you've given me something precious to true understanding and love. Together, we can overcome anything." They stood quietly, feeling deeply connected and content. Kyle knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, stronger because of their shared love. The days that followed were filled with peace and joy. Kyle settled comfortably into life on Zeloria, learning more about Alira's world and sharing his own experiences from Earth. Their union became a symbol of hope and unity, inspiring deeper bonds between their worlds. One quiet evening, sitting together by a softly glowing lake, Alira turned to Kyle with a gentle smile. "Kyle, are you truly happy here with me?" she asked, her voice soft and sincere. Kyle took her hands gently, looking into her eyes with deep sincerity. "Alira, I've never been happier. Every day with you is a gift, and I'm grateful for every moment we share." They leaned close, feeling a deep sense of peace and belonging. Beneath the gentle stars of Zeloria, they knew their hearts had found a forever home, filled with love, courage, and endless hope for the future.